So I'm just going to jump right in and I'm going to say, first of all, welcome back. Happy New Year. It is 2022. I cannot believe we all made it through 2 years of the pandemic, starting in 2021. We thought it was over after 20, but 21 proved to be just as crazy. And I just cannot believe we're here in 2022. So
Right.
Snazzy TV is back. I am super excited about that. And I'm your host, Alana Tyson, and this is our, I think, 13th episode of Before They Get Famous. We kind of were on a little bit of a hiatus in 21, maybe kind of like the end of 21. And, you know, there were a lot of fun, really good things happening for Snazzy Awards and ASMIS, which is the Academy of Social Media Arts and Sciences. And we're just trying to be really intentional this year in 2022. There's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes with the website. Website's been updated. We're going to bring some really cool and useful resources to the website as well. So make sure you stay tuned to all of that. So with that,
All right.
let me go ahead and introduce my guest. Here we have Lenny The Heart, right? So welcome. Lenny, you are, first of all, you're my first guest for 2022. So really, really happy about that. So we're starting the year off with a bang. I am like super excited to have you here. You have no idea. And you're the first musician that we've had on the show. So I've
Okay.
had a lot of different artists in different capacities on the show, but this is the first time I've had a musician. But you're not just a musician, you're a musician of the best kind, I think, because you write, you produce beats, you've got music on, folks. This guy is the real deal. Okay, so I know when we talked previously, Lennon, you said that you felt very honored to be on the show, and I'm like, no, man, I'm honored to have you because I have been listening to your music all week,
Yeah.
probably all month, just to really get a sense of kind of who you are, what your music really stands for, so I can really bring it to the people. And so you are the real deal. Okay, this guy is like a real musician, and we're going to get into all of that. So first up, you've got music on Spotify, you've got music on Apple Music, and of course you can also catch his music on his YouTube channel and Instagram and all of that, all of his social platforms. But before we do that, we're going to do some shout outs real quick. And that's kind of like a signature thing that I like to do on this show. Like anybody who's come back knows that that's what we do here. We do shout outs. And so I'm going to go ahead and kick things off. I'm shouting out everybody that reached out to Snazzy Awards when we put that call out for guests for Snazzy Awards. So I don't want to name everybody, so I'm just going to name a few that I kind of remember, that kind of stuck in my head. The Tip Cartel, I see you with your diamonds and your bling. I would love to have you on the show. Royal Cromwell, I see you walking. We'll get to you at some point. Canabe Tay, it's Kia Renee, Stud Model Project. So many folks reached out and were like, yeah, this sounds dope as I don't know what. I would love to be on the show and chat. And we're going to try to get to all of that, I promise you. And so kudos to everybody who reached out, because that means you're really, really about your business and trying to be intentional this year in 22. So I'm excited about that. But those are my shout outs. Lennon, who you got?
Oh yeah, I appreciate. First of all, I want to shout out you guys, Snazzy. I love the name. First of all, I thought it was, I thought it was really cool that I could go ahead and just, no funny business. You got me straight scheduled, and we're doing it. So, shouts out to Snazzy. Shouts out to my best friend Junior, South Florida. My family in South Florida and New Jersey, and my family in Colombia. They're always supporting me in anything I do. And a couple mentors. Shouts out to Chris. Shouts out to Matt Roberts. And I think that's it for now.
Awesome. And so let me just wrap it up real quick with our shout outs, because obviously we only have 30 minutes, guys. I try to keep it 30 minutes. And so as we would love to shout out everybody under the moon and stars, I'm going to say what somebody I had on the show said once before. If we missed you, okay, charge it to my head and not my heart. All right. All right. So let's get into this real quick. So Lennon, when I started looking at your music and your profile and everything, because that's kind of what I do. Like, I don't like to jump into an interview and just be rambling and, asking you stupid questions that I probably should already know. There's a lot of that on social media. And so I consider this show journalistic, right? So I really, really like to get to know the folks that I have on the show. And so as I was crafting our session and kind of thinking about how I kind of wanted to go about it, and a lot of how that turns out is based on you, right? The artist or the subject. And at first I wasn't going to share this with you, but I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna share this with you. What I came up with at the end of everything was this right here. I said, I'm going to kind of organize this as the man, the music, and the hustle. And so I was like, that kind of summed up kind of what your persona was to me. And not every subject I'm able to do that with, right? Because every subject is very unique. And so that's kind of how I'm going to break up this interview. I want to talk about the man, I want to talk about the music, and I want to talk about your hustle. Because kind of that's what I got out of your whole person when I started doing research on you. So I said that I was listening to a lot of your music this week, last week, and I have an ear for music. And when we said that your music was genius, like I don't use that term a whole lot, right? And I'm gonna break it down, folks. I'm telling you, I'm gonna break it down. I'm not just blowing smoke. Okay, first of all, go ahead and follow this man. His music is insane. Okay, and I'm going to tell you why. So I have several favorites. First of all, I Like Your Girlfriend is sick. I love that song. I love that one. Never Mind. Love that. Couple others that I just am like, Waiting. Super, super love that. And so as I was listening to your music, I was thinking that I heard a lot of influences, right? And I'm going to tell you who I kind of heard, and then you can. I hope you find this to be enlightening and not a bad thing at all. Because these folks that I heard inside your music, I was like, dang, this sounds just like, but not in a copycat way, but more like in a like, wow, he is like really bringing back this era of music. The Cure. Yes. Oh, shit. Yes, that, folks, if you're not familiar with The Cure, go look them up. They're an 80s band, kind of like alt rock, alternative, kind of goth or whatever, but they were extremely revolutionary with music. So I'm hearing The Cure. I'm hearing Kanye. Okay. I'm hearing Smashing Pumpkins. Okay. I'm hearing Juice WRLD. Like, this is wild. Like, I cannot really point to an artist today where I hear like all these nuances of different types of music in one artist. And that says, one, you are like super versatile. And you're creating this music, you're writing the music, you're producing the beats, all that. So I'm gonna give you the floor because I've said enough. But I definitely had to bring some of that stuff up because I'm sure that after this, folks are going to, go to your page and stuff. The fans that know you, but I'm talking about the people that have never heard you before. Okay, so I was like, I cannot put this guy in a box. I can't necessarily define your music. So in your own words,
right, that's cool.
Why don't you tell the people how do you describe your music and your flow, your vibe? How do you describe Lenny the Heart as a musician?
Well, I think I just started off just listening to rap music, just like the Jay-Z and Kanye West, Eminem. I was watching 8 Mile when I was like 15 or 16. And it was the first movie that my parents took me to at a theater. But as the years passed, I checked out different albums, different artists, and it was a lot of stuff that I came across that like it wasn't hip hop. I'm like, what is it, But I just dove into it and I embraced all the bands you name, like The Cure, Smashing Pumpkins. You know, I've had different phases where I really just dove into that music. And so I think it all influenced me in some way. I love when you said
Yeah.
Kanye West too, because particularly I had like a 2 year period where I would make a lot of soul beats, you know, with like the same machines he uses and everything. And I wasn't trying to copy him, but like he made me cry with his music, you know, like
Yeah.
so I've been inspired by a lot.
Yeah. And it shows, and it's not, it shows in a very authentic way. It's not like, because you can hear somebody and you're like, oh, they trying to be just like so and so, but it's not
Yeah,
coming off in that way at all. It's coming off as very authentic and pure. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that watch this and have to go look and see who the Cure is. And when they do, you will have introduced a whole new generation to a certain sound, right?
yeah,
So that's phenomenal. And I love the fact that I can't put you in a box, and that nobody can put you in a box. And not to say that, when I say put you in a box, I mean in terms of, say, okay, this guy is pop, because you're not pop necessarily.
yeah,
You're futuristic, you're pop, you're R&B, you're soul, you're rap, you're hip hop. I'm like, oh my God, I'm loving this. So
yeah.
specifically with I Like Your Girlfriend. And I was like, how can the same person that made Hype Beast have done Nevermind? And I was like, this is wild. This is so
That's cool.
awesome. I'm loving it. All right. So you grew up listening, okay, so you grew up listening, what you grew up listening to? You mentioned that you did like soul a
Um,
lot. Oh my gosh. And one of your songs you used, I think it was a sample of, I wasn't sure, it was either Isaac Hayes or Barry White.
yeah, yeah, I've got ton of vinyl records. I'm not sure exactly which one, but definitely there's a lot of the music I make is inspired by, yeah, like that era, the soul, like Temptations, Marvin Gaye. Uh,
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah,
And
but
I
that's
think,
really enlightening. I love that you
yeah,
say how you said that I made hype beats, and you know how could he make hype beats and Nevermind. I appreciate that. Thanks.
definitely, definitely. Let's see. So let's talk a little bit about the creative side of the music, right? Because you have a lot of people who only write, or a lot of people who only sing, but you do it all. You sing, you rap, you write, and you produce beats. Um, and when I am in this, and you're self-taught, right?
Right.
When you told me about some of the things that you were using, I was like, I never even heard of this stuff.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah,
I'm sure the people who know, like, the software, the synths, right, and
yeah.
the SP202, and the, what is it, the microchord or whatever. I'm like, so talk a little bit about, because I think it's important for, again, for the creative audience. I'm sure there are maybe some people out there that are probably where you were 5, 6 years ago, with just trying to understand, like, and maybe getting frustrated, like, I don't understand this, it's not gonna work. Talk about that a little bit. Like, what was that process like for you?
Yeah, creatively, I remember I was at this point where I'm like, hmm, I want to do software like everyone else is doing. They sound so cool. They sound so good. But I had like a random keyboard in my room, and I made a full beat on that keyboard, full instrumental. And so that was the point I think where I'm like, oh man, let me just spend a lot of my money on like hardware instruments, I think. And then I started like getting into samplers like the SP202, the microchord, where you could manipulate your own sounds on those machines. Kind of, but it's a lot of sample based, you know. But um, that's how I started. I started very sample based
Right.
because I think that like the software, like, believe it or not, it felt like it was, you know, I thought. it felt like I was just in this one world I would look at, which is the software. And it just felt like I was in a box using that. So tried other
Gotcha.
stuff.
Right. So tried other things. Um, how long? I mean, it's, I don't want to necessarily quantify, but I'm just trying to get an idea of how long would it take someone to learn how to use these. And I'm sure it's a lot of wanting to do it. Like you have to have the desire. Obviously, you can't just say, "Oh, I'm going to go try to make some beats," and you never, you know, and that's not really your thing. So I'm guessing if you're really passionate about it, you can do it. But how long would you say your learning curve was for a lot of this?
I think I don't really think there was like a learning phase. I think I just started and I was like, nah, that sounds whack, trash. And then
Right.
yeah,
Right. Right. Trial and error, right?
I- yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah, trial and error. And I felt like it just came out real quick. Yeah.
Okay. So,
Yeah, even my best friend, yeah,
go ahead. Your best friend.
well, he's like, man, the whole block used to say you were whack, man, but like 2 songs later, you sound like Jay-Z, man. You like, what's wrong with you? You're doing really well, man. Thanks. I guess I just like music. I just love music.
Yeah. It's
So,
and it's time and effort, right? It's like
yeah,
obviously the longer you do something and if you're passionate about it, eventually it's gonna, you know, something's gonna start to the pedals, I guess, will start to fall back, and then it's just like, okay, all right, this is actually starting to sound like something.
yeah,
Nice. Have you seen that happen with your music? Like, have you seen that? Has it been that obvious where you where you go back like 10 years and you're like, damn, that sucked to today, and you're like
yeah.
to see that, you know, progression.
Oh yeah, it's fascinating, you know. I found myself comparing myself to many other artists, and then during that time is when I was just stuck. And I wasn't making good stuff, and I wasn't even releasing anything. But when I realized I need to just stop comparing myself and be myself, that's when I can just make my best tunes, I think. And I just always made things that I liked, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hear you. So since we were talking about the production side of the house a little bit, again, I want you to flex in this interview, so I'm gonna help you flex a little bit. Let's talk about Orchid Beats.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the or not or either Orchid Beats, or we can talk a little bit about some of the music that you've created for others.
Hmm.
So I mean that says a lot.
Yeah.
Like I mean it's one thing to use your own music, but when somebody else finds it worthy enough to be like, damn, this is hot. Let me take this. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things that kind of gets me up every day, and I tell myself, you got to just make music. These people want it. They're asking for it. You know, I got several people in my hometown still asking me for beats like almost every day. I'm like, man, I'm doing, you know, I'm kind of like doing a lot right now. Just, you know, I'll send you some. But it definitely feels great. Yeah, it definitely feels great. And I know I put out several whole beat tapes, which are just no rapping, no nothing, just beats. You know, 20 beats, and several of those.
So since we're gonna wrap up this little section of where we're talking about the music, we're gonna move on. But before we move on, can you give me, because I was gonna ask you to give me the backstory of a particular song, but I'll leave it up to you because you know every song has a backstory.
Yeah.
So if I'll let you tell us, give us one good backstory about one of the songs that you wrote. Like how did it come about, or where you were when you wrote it, something like real crazy, or maybe not so crazy.
Yeah. Well, I like your girlfriend. That's like true story right there. Um,
Okay. I'm sure a lot
yeah,
of people can relate.
yeah, we were young. I mean, we were probably like 17, me and my best friend Junior, and we would always go to the mall together. or the movie theaters, and we didn't care too much about what movie we were watching. We wanted to find girls we could flirt with or whatever, you know, just talk to the girls. So, you know, we got these two girls that we hung out with, and I think he started liking the girl I was talking to, and vice versa. So, somebody ended up getting hurt.
That's always
Yeah,
how it ends.
yeah,
You would hope it doesn't end that way, but sometimes that's just how it ends. But at least you were only 17, so you know. Okay.
yeah.
That's awesome. All right. So again, I could talk about your music all day, but I'm gonna just go ahead and let the fans and let the new folks that are being introduced to you, I let them go and discover some of your music on their own. Again, he's on Spotify, Apple Music, or just go to YouTube and find him on there. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about the man. So
Mhm.
I know that sounds like big, but it's really not. It's just kind of more of, so I've noticed that you talk a little bit, or not so much a little bit, but you talk quite a bit about, and I really love this too. You talk quite a bit about mental health and kind of mental health awareness in your music. And I think those two things can easily go hand in hand, right? Because music can be very healing. Um, so talk a little bit about that, if you will, as much as you're willing to get into with that.
Yeah, I love the relationship the two have, mental health and music, because for me, if I didn't have this outlet, if I never discovered this outlet that I can make music, record wherever I want, say whatever I want, you know, then I'll probably be serving a long sentence in prison, probably life, because I just been, since I was like 14, 13, I was like gang affiliated, and then I stopped, and then I was just like misbehaving, stealing, and then overly obsessed with women. You know, I just have really dark phases that I can attribute to like mood swings and just like bizarre thinking patterns. And so
Mm.
music has always like centered me, balanced me again, make me find myself and love myself through, you know, with music. But I have a bipolar diagnosis, and so that makes it difficult. But you know, I always find myself making music. Um,
Yeah. I I think
I was-
I think Lennon, I think you're not alone in that. Of course, obviously, a lot of people have those have bipolar or some other type of mental health things that they're dealing with. But I think particularly in the music industry, there is quite a bit of that. Um, and I don't know why. Maybe people's brains think a little bit differently, and that's part of what makes you so creative. Um, but I will say that I love the fact that, and I think your fans appreciate it as well, the fact that you're so transparent. Um, and that kind of makes you a lot more authentic. Because oftentimes you hear about artists and they try to put on this perfect persona, and then you find out like 10, 20 years in that they are suffering or dealing with some type of mental health issue, and it's like, oh well, damn. And it's like, how many people could have been helped if you were open about that, right? So I love that part of your journey. I think it is just like so like wholesome, and I can tell that your fans appreciate it as well, because what I've noticed, because I'm keen on these kind of things, um, it's like your fans connect with you emotionally,
Mm.
and you can see it in the way they respond to your music. And so that's like a really, really cool thing. Like if your fans can connect to you emotionally, because it's one thing to be like, oh yeah, I like that song, you know, but do they? But it's another thing if they like the song and they really, really can connect with the artist. That makes for such a more beautiful creative experience. So okay. So what I like also about your brand, Leonard, is that you let people see you in your element quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so by that I mean, you're like, what does that mean? It's like like with your videos, for example, your videos are just like so like chill and like down to earth, and you're just kind of like in the park or just like wherever you just might happen to be. It almost looks like you were just like, you know what, I'm here, I might as well make video.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
And
right.
it might not be that intentional. It might not be that intentional, but it kind of looks that way, which is kind of cool. So, tell me a little bit about that. Like, how is that? Is it intentional? Like, do you intentionally create this element of this is just me, or is it just kind of natural and as you're creating, or you just kind of like whatever they're going to just get what they get?
Yeah. Well, I found that like I always make these visions in my head. Like, one day I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna do it like that right there. I'm gonna record that, blah blah blah. And when I least expect it, like I'm there where I visualized, and I know I could get that scene or talk about that. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like impulsive how I get, and then I start creative, but it starts with like these, yeah, just impulses and being the right place, right state of mind, and the right time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much again for opening up about your history, your past, because I'm sure there are a lot of people watching this or that will watch it that can relate. So, did you ever have? Because obviously, music is your passion, and so you're putting yourself into your music now full time, like wholeheartedly. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what were
Yeah.
you? Did you ever have any things or interests that you kind of like tried to do before and they didn't work out because you were avoiding the music? You see what I mean? Like some people are like, oh, like
Yeah.
I talk to a lot of creatives and they're like, it took them a while to find their niche or to find their passion because they tried like 10 other things first. Like what was the 10 other things first for you?
Yeah. Well, first, well, let me say this. I was raised very great family, but I put myself in some bad situations. I made poor decisions, and I found myself just going crazy, just being ridiculous. So, um, that might, I worked in the post office, and I was really serious about the post office. I wanted to be a postmaster of the United States,
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
and I was in there for like, yeah, yeah, I was in there for like, let's say 4 years. And during that 4 years, I've become a supervisor. I had interviews for small postmaster jobs like in Alaska, Nebraska. Um, and I just didn't go. I just chickened out, or I didn't have the money to move. And it came to a point, I was at work and I was just so depressed. Like, I don't want to keep moving these boxes every day and just being here every day. All, you know what I mean? And then that happened at a good time because a girl, like I was in love with a girl, she broke up with me, and I just resigned abruptly from the job. And
Okay. You broke up a little bit after you said you resigned abruptly. I felt
yeah,
like
yeah,
did I miss a good piece after that? You said you broke up,
yeah,
you resigned abruptly. And then I was like, dang, I was
yeah,
like, then what happened?
yeah. So nobody expected it because I've been there for years, and this is in Miami, Florida, but nobody expected it. I just walked into the office and I was like, "Hey, can I talk to you?" I kind of started crying, um, and I was like, "I just can't do this anymore." Um, and I think I was just like in a weird state of mind, depression. I don't know, but um, I also had a girlfriend that I was like kind of in love with, but I resigned abruptly, and shortly after the relationship ended too. And then I think I just started slowly pouring myself into the music, buying a ton of new hardware instruments and things.
Wow.
And yeah.
Wow. I cannot even tell you, Lennon, how many people I've talked to that have that same story. Just replace the post office with something else.
Mhm.
Replace the post office with Amazon, or replace the post office with, I don't know, the county, or the government. I was working for the government, But anyway, you clearly have found your way. Um, and that's such a beautiful thing. Like when you finally find that thing that sticks and it's like, damn, I'm really good at this. And people actually like it.
Yeah, right.
It's
Yeah,
awesome. Okay.
feels
So you said, what's that? You said it feels,
yeah, it feels good to know that I want to do this. Um, and there is no plan B, so to speak. You know what I mean? There's no plan B. This is what I'm doing. So
yes, yes. Oh, that needs to be a thing. Like there is no plan B. Yeah, I love that. Okay. Let's get into your hustle, right? So we talked about the man, we talked about the music. Let's talk about your hustle. So that being, you got a lot going on.
yeah.
How? So not only are you creating music and creating this amazing new genre, which I don't even think I can. Again, I can't quite put my finger on what the genre is, but we'll leave that for another day. But you've got all these different entities, right? So you've got your Black Hoodie Productions, you've got the Hugo Burke video production, you've got Orchid Beats. Although I don't know if you're still doing the Orchid Beats thing, maybe you're going under another name with that. So talk to me a little bit about how you balance that, like, because it's one thing to be creating music, but how do you balance all of that with social media?
Um, yeah, that might be the most difficult part is doing the art part and the hustle, and then keeping it up with social media. You know, yeah, I got a few people in the crew in the circle that help me keep pushing, whether it's like emotionally or kind of strategically. They might have some suggestions, and um I've noticed these are people that are really solid in this same mission with me. So it's also like a support group. And but I do have to, like, I go to therapy every week. Um just have someone to talk to, kind of like this, but yeah, all these different things in my life, therapy, support group, me talking to myself and writing things down, it all when I talk to myself, I'm like, you got to post this, and then don't forget to post that snippet on there. And so it took time, but I found a way to post on as much platforms as I can, um, and be genuine at the same time, I think.
Yeah, it could totally be somebody's full-time job to do all of your like social media and like make sure you're getting the music out there and make sure you're telling folks about where you want to be, and then posting pictures and that, right? Like,
There's definitely
um,
some days, that I don't scroll, because that would just be too draining.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah.
And then also, and somebody else that's like one of the guests that I had on the show once, they were like, if you're watching everybody else's stuff, you won't create anything, and nobody will be watching you.
Yeah.
So I was like, that is a great way to put it. So you have to, again, 2022, folks, we're trying to be intentional
Mm.
about every single thing you do as it relates to your brand. And so what's next? What's next for you, and what's next for your fans?
Yeah. So
What can
excuse me. In 6 days, I got a new single dropping, but it's only gonna be on YouTube and SoundCloud until further notice. I'm about to announce a bunch of shows. I'm gonna be supporting an act called Lebo on his tour. So I'm gonna be all over the US doing shows with him. Stuff. So that's
Lebo, is he on Instagram?
yeah, Leebo.
Okay, because we got to make sure we give people their, you know,
Yeah, sure. Shouts
definitely.
out to
You want to,
Lebo.
yeah, shout out to Levo,
Yeah,
because then they're gonna make sure they follow him and then see you. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
so
So
so we're
L
we're
E
checking for
E.
Levo so we can see what you're
Mhm.
doing too.
Yeah, yeah. Leebo, and Tracks is his Instagram. So I'll be supporting him on tour. Yeah, I've got a lot of shows I'm about to announce. And today I turned on a bunch of like my instruments. So I'm going to be entering a production phase as of this morning, because I do things in phases. If I'm recording, I mean, I'm recording for like 12 hours straight, maybe. And but sometimes I just turn it all off and I'm just like editing and things, just editing. But yeah, I'll be doing a lot of shows and I'm going to be editing. I'm going to keep posting content. I found it's just a lot of fun going on.
Wow.
Lots
Oh,
of hype.
one thing I didn't mention real quick about like intellectual property. When I mentioned like some of the different some of the different entities that you have, has that been a thing for you? Like, have you been concerned with putting your information, you're putting your stuff out there?
Yeah, it's been a concern. And like there's been a couple beats that I didn't make and I paid for exclusively type deals. And then I find that an other artist has like the content ID on it. And I just immediately like send a professional email, like, please remove the content ID, and I get to it quick. I just be nice in the email, professional. This is exclusive. So,
Okay. So,
oh, and another thing, I make sure I have all my catalog registered on ASCAP, like Song Trust and Sound Exchange. 3 different agencies that will ensure that this is really Lennon's stuff.
okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. See, we dropping gems, right? Like, I didn't even know about that. I'm sure somebody is like, oh, let me write that down. Let me make sure I write that down.
Yeah,
Okay, well,
ASCAP,
awesome.
Song Trust, Sound Exchange. So,
Okay, right. And that's
yeah,
to help keep your, that's kind of like intellectual property, where it's making sure
yeah,
that you own
yeah.
the rights to that. Okay,
Right.
awesome. Thanks
Yep.
for that. Let's see. So you're going to be on tour. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, guys. Lennon, thank you so much. Lenny The Heart on Instagram, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify. But yeah, check him out. Check out his music. Add him to your playlist. You will
Yeah.
not be disappointed. Lenny, thank you so much for giving Snazzy TV a little bit of your time. I know you're a busy man. Um, I wish you all the best, right? I wish you all the best. I'm sure that at some point we'll see your name in lights, because that's what this show is all about. We try to get to folks before they get famous, because Lenny The Heart, folks, everything's going to be on your screen. And that's a wrap. Snazzy TV. All right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Lennon.
Appreciate you so much. Thanks for your
All
time.
right.